What like? So when I uploaded that video on Wednesday of Nicola Thinlips addressing the Parliament, where she essentially repeated most of the talking points from the last time she addressed the Parliament in her COVID briefing, I was none the wiser of what had actually taken place elsewhere at that point in time. I'm obviously referring to the photograph that had emerged of her sat next to her husband at Westminster Abbey, down in England, the day before, without her little face covering on. Those face coverings that she spends a good portion of each COVID briefing reminding us all are very effective, and But she came back up to Scotland to address the Parliament at her COVID briefing, where she announced an additional 2 weeks on top of the 2 weeks she'd already announced prior to that of the legal requirement to wear face coverings. It was being extended for an additional 2 weeks, despite the fact a photo had emerged of her sat in a room full to the brim of people without her face covering. Did this guy, Graham Simpson, have anything to say to her at the Parliament when she was making this announcement? Did anybody else in the Parliament, for that matter, have anything to say regarding the revelation of that photograph? No. No, they did not. I am perplexed that somebody has managed to outdo Douglas Ross on the Richter scale of wet wipery, because he had the perfect opportunity 2 weeks ago to completely blow up her narrative and watch her malfunction live for all to see, when she was peddling the proverbial talking points about, oh, we know the face coverings are very effective. The usual routine from Nicola Thinlips. I think that woman spends far too much time rehearsing her scripts, and she gets far too into the acting performance, because it does look at times as if she genuinely is starting to believe the bullshit that she's saying, or she's at the very least getting a kick out of thinking that you believe it. But nonetheless, all he had to do was point to the studies that had come out around about the same time that suggested that the very same face coverings that she was telling us that we were all going to have to wear for an additional 2 weeks to apparently help stop the spread or getting any worse, despite the fact the spread had already come about during a period of time when everybody was wearing a mask anyway, so it made no sense. But that's nobody ever calls it out for that either, so it's fine. It doesn't have to make sense as far as she's concerned. But that's all that Douglas Ross had to say. Studies have showcased that they're around about 90% ineffective, so what's the point? But what did he do instead? Oh, you promised the nation that we would be out of restrictions by the 21st, First Minister, and you've decided to lie. You've broken a promise, And then that gave her the perfect opportunity to go, well, it's because we know that the masks work, the usual routine, the head bobbing, the hair gel, etc., flickering in the wind. But then a couple of weeks later, somebody outsoys the soy master of Douglas Ross. I didn't think it was fucking possible. I really didn't. But lo and behold, we have Graham Simpson. So what do you think his hot take's going to be when Julia Hartley-Brewer kind of gets the story half right? Her take, even though she's trying to poke fun at Thinlips, irritates me for in and of itself, because she obviously doesn't know the additional rhetoric that Thinlips comes away with when she tells everybody they need to wear their face coverings. She's the one telling us all that they're really effective, because she's not wearing them herself. Anyway, let's hear Graham's hot take, shall we? I mean, I know that Scottish politics is a dog and pony show. I've said it for the longest time. But for fuck's sake, this is the level of opposition that woman has to put up with. So not only are all the speeches scripted, they all know the answers to the questions before they're even fucking asked. So that in and of itself is just pointless. Makes the men look pathetic, or the women. They know that they're going to get rinsed because they've got a response to her response on their fucking script. But never at any point throughout any of this has any of her talking points, and this isn't just for COVID, this isn't just in general. Every single talking point that Nicola Thinlips peddles, nobody ever calls her out on it. I mean, and she gets away with peddling some amount of nonsense. And it has started to go to her head a bit. It's pretty self-evident. She thinks the sun shines out her arse. She thinks she's fucking untouchable. And all it would take is for one individual, But nonetheless, all it would take is one politician in that Parliament to poke a little hole in her narrative and watch it all come crumbling down. Because her narrative is only allowed to run its course because these people reaffirm it, and they're supposed to be opposing politicians. It's a joke, and I really am starting to be off the belief that it's done by design. The whole point of their measly political existence in that Parliament, with their stupid talking points where she always manages to refute them. it's almost as if she is there by design, and their stupidity is by design to keep her in power. Anyway, let's hear his hot take.
You are...
Fuck off.
On COVID rules in Scotland at the moment. I was fascinated that where we still got a situation where you have to wear masks in quite a lot of indoor situations, including in churches in Scotland. And yet Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, attended Westminster Abbey, where there is no requirement to wear masks in England, but she attended the Abbey not wearing a mask. Now, do you just wear a mask because there's a rule, or does she genuinely think that there is a risk from COVID? And given that we have got an explosion of COVID cases right now, what I can't understand is why she thinks you need to wear a mask in a Scottish church by law, but you don't need to wear one in England, even if the law says you don't. I'm very confused.
Well, you're not the only one. There was some alarm when we saw the pictures of her yesterday. We're hoping for an announcement today. Maybe she'll free us from our masks.
Maybe she'll free us from our masks. We were quite alarmed when we were watching that. Me and the boys were at Hollywood and couldn't believe what we were seeing. What she did, what she playing at. Wow. Hopefully she's going to free us of our masks when she comes back up to Scotland today from where she was. And you know where she was? She was down in England without a fucking mask on.
You people... It's not even... I mean, I'm almost embarrassed for him. What's going through his fucking head? I mean, is he instructed to act this way? Is he instructed to keep his mouth shut? That would make sense. Hence me going on about the fact that I think that all of their antics, for the most part, it has to be done by design. So these people are instructed to just keep their mouth shut. You know? I mean, that's no life. What is the point of going into politics if that's going to be your job role, where you just have to sit silent and allow that thin-lipped fucking leprechaun to make you look like a mug? You know?
Oh, we were quite alarmed, so we're hoping that we're going to get an address today. He's going to free it.
Well, when she came out and extended it for an additional 2 weeks, did Graham Simpson have anything to say about that? Did Douglas Ross have anything to say about that? Did any of them have anything to say about that? Nah. Instead, we got the same routine that we got fucking last time round. We intermittently interjected her own speech to tell us that we know they're effective, by the way, while she patted herself on her fat back to tell us, I'm being cautious. With his fucking riveting hot takes. I mean, this is the epitome of a wet wipe.
I'm very confused.
Well, you're not the only one.
Not the only one.
There was some alarm when we saw the pictures of her yesterday.
I almost spilt my orange juice out. I was so fucking angry.
Fucking bailing.
We're hoping for an announcement today. Maybe she'll free us from our masks. I certainly hope so. It's been enjoyable for me and others when we've managed to get down to England and go mask free. It's a real hassle. There doesn't seem to be anything behind it. So I
don't know if he's talking about the narrative from Mass or if we're talking about his scalp. I don't think there's very much behind there, to be honest. I mean, this is all he's got to say in that matter. He's got to say. This is ridiculous.
I'm hoping that maybe she'll have seen how enjoyable it is not to wear a mask.
But this is the whole thing. We've seen this with what's been going with politicians in Westminster. I was on telly yesterday with Layla Moran from the Liberal Democrats, who was insisting that she always wears a mask. And I pointed out, I was with you outside the studio. You weren't wearing a mask for quite a long time. I mean, there's a lot of this is theatre. But this is the hypocrisy of politicians of whichever party. When politicians are saying you need to wear a mask and requiring people to wear them in places, they're under their jurisdiction, but then choosing not to wear one themselves in exactly the same circumstances, it just shows what nonsense and hypocrisy this is.
Well, thank you for saying it. It really should be his job to say it, but put words in his mouth because he ain't going to spit them out. Here it comes, the mid-sentence interjection to remind you that the face coverage work. This has become the new common theme. It used to be mentioning sustainability and jib jabs and whatnot all the time, but this seems to be the new one.
Which we have now done. We have taken account of the very high level of infection and the pressure on the NHS, and also the fact that face coverings do provide an...
What the fuck is that? the uptick in octaves of her tone of voice. She's not even finished the initial sentence, and then she just steamrolls in ahead with that one. Oh, it's fucking brilliant.